Okay, here we go, folks. Yeah. Economic criminology system activity. Treason detected. So as we're working on these different forms of software, it's crucially important to understand how we're going to deal with these various situations that are going to come up and detect things. So quantification happens in different ways. Now, basically, in order to analyze this further, let me explain a little bit more to you on how this is done. Now, as it turns out, we have people that lied. They lied about ascending assets. They said they're junk, but they weren't junk. They're ascending assets. There's also a lot of other lies about why they're involving themselves in mass economic sabotage, attacking and stealing people's assets. There's a long history behind this, by the way, a really long history. And it deals with people swearing literally on a Bible before community people. We're talking a community examination where we literally had legislatures come in saying we want the power to be able to put a small tax on vehicle registration. And the tax will be paid by people who buy the new vehicle. The tax is not going to be on you. But in order to do this, we have to ask your permission. You people have to vote yes. And so, of course, the questions come in and say, well, you're never going to abuse this, right? You're agreeing, you're going to swear before the town hall meeting here on this Bible right here before all of us, that you are never going to basically extend and require us to have licenses to operate horses or wagons or vehicles, because the operator permit comes with the vehicle when you buy it from the person that basically is selling the device. Because it's a new device, they're selling the device. It's their job to teach you how to use the device, and that's where the operator permit comes from. Whether you're buying a steam vehicle or whatever you're going to buy, that's where it happens. See, so they swore before not just one community. They swore before two communities, before two town hall meetings of what the limitations are. Extensive questions came from the town hall members, all present, asking them, talking about what their intent was, and they agreed to a significantly long list of items stating beyond a shadow of a doubt that they would never go into certain other territories. Guess what? They lied. So what we got here is we're going to examine evidence against socialism, communism, and Marxism. Goes back to the Royal German Empire, basically, and it deals with a lot of stuff. Now, in this particular instance, we have this happened with socialists, the Nazi socialist, basically World War II, okay, going into occupational areas, they wore these armbands right here, and then they would wear these things right here, and basically what these people were was enforcement. And they were going to tax and put levies and liens on everybody's stuff. They were going to find resources and take them, all kinds of stuff. So basically, the reasoning behind the design is unique, because from the very beginning of the design of these types of operations that were... oops, got the fire trucks rolling out here, and I had my window open. Okay. All right, let's sit back down in the RV and get back to business. So it's important to understand the origin of these certain kinds of laws and governance. They were designed by the Royal German Empire. Now, among the people that were on the list were spies. Lenin, spy. Okay. Also, we had Karl Marx. We also had Joseph Stalin. Yes. So the Royal German Empire gives all this money for, Lenin to basically go and invade Russia, take it over, spread the good word of communism, and destabilize the entire country. And as you would take over different areas, you would implement these different rule sets, which were what? They were invented by the Royal German Command. Royal German Empire, that's right. Why? Now, when you read the reasoning and the standard for understanding why they created the logic behind this, it was to deliberately destabilize citizens. This is the entire reason why you create code enforcement. It's the entire origin reason. It's the entire origin reason why you put taxes on people's wagons, on their vehicles, on their tools. It's clearly stated for the sole purpose of destabilizing people's lives, okay? So these are enemies, these are declared enemies of the United States. We fought 2 wars with them, okay? And they have had their long-term clandestine plans for their idea of their destiny to basically do things to create these child corporate instruments, organizations such as Marxism, communism, socialism. And we have things like Karl Marx, for instance. When you evaluate Mr. Karl Marx, what you end up running into is too many documents, too much information, not humanly possible in that era for one person to be as prolific as he was. In other words, what you actually happened was these people, again, they're actually on they're actually on 2 payrolls. They're on a syndicate payroll, which is part of a business payroll that works with being a syndicate member, basically. I'll explain more about that a little bit, okay? Because so you had Lenin, Stalin, and Marx all on multiple payrolls, okay? So we have all these people that are misunderstanding things. So we had mass infiltration into medical associations, universities, etc., trading narcotics. Yes, they did this. So the syndicate did this. They had access to all kinds of stuff. They did all this stuff. Then they eventually lay out the reasoning of, well, they want to buy all the metals. Before World War I, they want to buy all the metals, including the church bells, and they will pay the highest price to obtain all this metal in advance as they try to quietly move forward with their plans. Oh my goodness. Okay, so as we trace all the fragments in history, what we run up to is the original origin of weaponization of data as parties in origin designed mechanisms because why? They were diabolically against other governments, including the United States. We were the number 2 target. Russia was the number 1. Now, the identification on the number 2 target had a creative series of schemes to utilize the United States in many ways because there was so much vast land. They wanted to get a hold of territories, do business deals, bribe people, buy their way into certain types of land, certain types of operations, build things even such as munitions that they could use in the war. So we were building munitions here in the United States that were killing our own people. Yes, that's amazing. It took us a while to even shut it down. If you can imagine us running a munitions plant, delivering and making munitions that were killing our own people in World War I. Okay, so what we have here, back to they lied, is something we have to do. We have to understand that treason's been detected here. And the reason treason's been detected is because we've had a lot of stuff that's occurred here. Oh my goodness, we had all this stuff that's occurred here. So we're working on all of these different types of screens with the software as we're quantizing each and every understanding with mathematics. So understanding all these neat things that have been happening in various demographic areas literally have some very interesting things. And the interesting things deal with, well, guess what? As it turns out, these various parties basically did something interesting. They got on planes and they took lectures by people that were being ran by various other parties that are diabolically opposing the Constitution of the United States. So they go to lectures where they're talking about how to overthrow the United States. how to sneak in voter warriors, how to overtake the country by sneaking in voter warriors. Okay. And so we have all these people claiming to be social democrats that attended these various lectures. We've established this. They're recorded in full 3D. They went there. Okay. We've got the data. Okay. They went there. We've got all kinds of, we got photographs on them. We have recordings involving the lectures. The lectures are blatant. We have people recorded at those lectures. We have people who have received the material via the mail. We have other information and data. Let me just break this down and simplify it for you. It's grossly simplified. Okay, it's grossly simplified for you. If what? If I don't tell you about all that really neat intelligence stuff that we also did, that proves beyond the shadow of a doubt, more times over than necessary, that these people committed treason because they had committed mass economic sabotage. They lied. There was no prudence whatsoever in their claims about all the stuff they said about cars. And furthermore, if you take one of these cars, you get it off the road, and then you have it, you're going to have it melted, you have to burn it. Okay, you got to melt it, you got to burn it. When you burn all the plastic, okay, all the plastic in the interior parts and all of the upholstery inside a vehicle, all of this stuff adds up to more than 10 years worth of pollution output if that car had ran continuously on the road. Okay, more than 10 years. So run the car on the road for 10 more years, or burn it up now, and let's, instead of adding one more year of pollution out there, right? Okay, we're gonna do 10 years worth of pollution, boom, all at once. Okay, so there's no logic in what these people claim respective to cleaning up pollution, because as they were destroying these vehicles, they were actually making more pollution than the vehicles would have produced. Now, into this, see, the reality around the way people manage assets like this prudently is you end up not using the vehicle as much, and you buy a new one. Yeah, that's right. You buy a new one that's more efficient and on the road, you see, and you kind of don't use this other one as much. You might kind of just park it for a while, whatever, So, but the logic these people are using was vicious. It was evil. It was, we want to destroy these people's assets. We are going to lie, and then we are going to steal their assets from them. This is mass economic sabotage. And the policies that they used and invented, all of these different laws, they went around and they twisted the arms of local governments. They coerced local governments and said, we want you to follow our lead on all these different laws. Here's some packages. And, well, basically, if you don't do it, we're going to cut off your funding. So I defy you today to go out there and see for yourself whether or not people in the regime are coercing municipal governments into accepting some sort of plan somehow, some way, where basically they're telling them, do it our way, which, by the way, includes them doing probably something insane like shutting down business opportunities. You can do this, we'll give you this money, we'll fund this, and if you don't do it, then we're pulling funding, coercion. And sometimes we have local municipalities saying, no, we just can't do that. But here's the thing, they lied somewhat convincingly for many decades. And because they lied, we have court action after court action that's come through, chipping away as people kept challenging, and finally judges were looking at the logic and saying, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. So as we look at the logic of this, each year after year after year, it's undeniable. These are ascending value assets. Hanging on to them is prudent. So when we have people that are violating the Constitution, see, in order to promote the general financial wellness and continued environment as a fair-like wonder for us to have this stuff continue, combine the word welfare. That's the original meaning of welfare. It's not food stamps, okay? There were no food stamps back then, okay? So you build your financial stability, your financial wellness, and make lots of event opportunities, see? And that's how you have money to pay your bills and do things. So promoting continuous hard asset development and asset growth is what the Constitution Agreement is all about. So the contest in elections is who's going to do the best promoting of a stimulus, of a new asset creation, how to create more wealth more brilliantly. But that's not what's happening. We now have people running on the ticket saying, we're going to go uptown and we're going to jack the rich folks. No. That's economic sabotage. Okay? So when you find these people following more of this university material, this education material, that what? It goes back to who? Socialism, communism, Marxism, invented by the Royal German Empire, as they are admittedly diabolically opposed to the Constitution of the United States and to our forms of governance. And they admittedly develop all these forms of governance to commit mass economic sabotage. These people are enemies. They're declared enemies. So when we have people that are learning and using these people's techniques and implementing them to commit mass economic sabotage, that's called treason. This is the quantification logic that's inescapable. It's inescapable. So we have to immediately begin the process of prosecutions. Now, it's amazing how the AIs in these systems, the government sponsors all kinds of AIs and all kinds of blacklisting, and they're blacklisting people. They're blacklisting campaigns. They're blacklisting my campaigns. I get notices from Google. I get notices from Elon Musk's office. Elon Musk saying, I am not going to lie for the Biden administration. I am not going to lie for the California administrations. They are spying on you, mister. And they're ordering us to use different types of algorithmic discrimination on you. How about that? A candidate running for office in the state is going to come in and blacklist. That is an illegal manipulation of elections. That is treason. That is treason. Why? Because I have evidence that these people are involved in treason. I'm going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm going to utilize these types of logic quantifications that are so definitive, they're inescapable. They're inescapable, you see. So even though I find all this proof, I look in other places. They're discriminating more against me than Chad Bianco. I caught them discriminating against Chad Bianco, too. So, yeah, I run into evidence that way, too, as I do the analysis. So, it's the way I play. I'm going to play this truthfully. I'm going to play this truthfully and tell the truth here. Because these people have committed treason. They keep committing all these acts. And as we implement modern software, modern economic criminology software, the quantification is undeniable. These parties are committing treason. So it's no joke here. These parties are committing treason. So as we're working with setting up to get all of this stuff going, to get the dashboards right, get all of this software going, where we can compare the different variations and do different scenarios and forecasting and understand what's going on, we're looking at mass economic sabotage and treason every so often. It just pops up. Wow, what's happening here? We've got a big, huge attack on economics. This is not stimulus, this is anti. And then we have to research the origins of where all this material is coming from. And when these people studied under people who studied from Karl Marx, and we have the entire chain of operation of weaponization of data in the infusion of false business practices that are deliberately designed to undermine the Constitution of the United States, admittedly designed. That's treason. Aiding and abetting your enemy giving them comfort, that's treason. That's treason. So when they stand up and say they're socialist and they want to talk about their fancy sheepskins that all trace back to Marxism and the Royal German Empire, that's a confession. These people are stuck in a big, huge confession of being admittedly diabolically opposing the Constitution of the United States. And we have to proceed forward as fast as possible. Now, I also happen to think that in certain instances, we need to put these people in fMRI lie detectors. We do, because we can record their heads. We need this for the future. We need to be able to take our children to museums and say, kids, we want to show you what real monsters look like. Here, this is what these people said. Look how they lied. Look how these people lied. And then eventually here we're recording their head, and you can see these strings of words and statements coming out of the head as to what they really believe, to what they were really doing. So here it is, kids. These are what real monsters look like. We need to protect the future for our children. We need to do this. This is national security. It's national security. So when we have people who committed treason, we have to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. The amount of damage that's been done is just mind-boggling. Because we're not just talking about the cost of these cars, we're talking about the loss of the extra diversity of the vehicle and the use of it. In other words, because you had to go out and buy a different vehicle, that stressed your financial situation. That means you invested less. That means you had less financial diversity options. This means you lost other options. So it's not the fact that somebody says, they burned you out of a $100,000 or $300,000 vehicle. Maybe they did it more than once. It's all the rest you add up. So you end up coming up with all these people that are owed $1.4 million, they're owed $10 million. It's massive. It's massive. You're putting people into a downward spiral. And when you look at the size, the enormity of this mass economic treason, it's mind-boggling. And there is no possible escape for what these people have done. The quantification is perfect. The math is perfect on the quantification. Following the history of all these trails, there is no escape for what these people have done. And people, this is why we need to move forward as quick as possible to prosecute these parties for the treason that they've committed and end up, and I'm very serious about it. At least some of these people, we have to, in the name of national security, for our children's future, we have to record these people what's really in their brain as opposed to their lies that they just keep saying on the surface. We have to end this, and we have to protect history. We have to protect national security. We have to protect history and the future of our children. I want to thank you very much. My name is Michael Crosby, and yes, I am a candidate for governor.